This is a Ranieri & Co and Headline Productions podcast.
The bodies of elite athletes are finely tuned machines. In training and competition, they are pushed to extremes, meaning pain and injury are a common byproduct.
Your whole body is on fire, and we want as much of that as we possibly can because it's a byproduct of speed.
We watch our sporting heroes in their moments of glory or failure. But the preparation and training required to compete at the highest level has taken those athletes years of dedication and hard work. And it's not just about performing at your best, it's also about sustaining your career.
You hand your resume in every time you go out in the field to try and get your job back the next week. Whether you're feeling good or bad doesn't really jump into that equation.
Today we're speaking to two very different athletes. National icon Cate Campbell is the Ferrari of F1 racing. Her body has powered her to 4 Olympic gold medals and 8 Olympic medals in total. NRL star Wade Graham has played over 250 games at the highest level. His body is a bulldozer, built to push through players and sustain impacts most of us would take weeks to recover from. Most Australians will remember your last race at the Tokyo Olympics, which was the relay. Do you want to just set that scene of the relay and talk us through what you were thinking and feeling when you turned at that halfway point?
Yeah, this has to go down as like one of my favourite races, partly because we mowed down the Americans and we just love doing that. We were kind of expecting, on paper, America was well clear of us. They should have won. The most technical part of a relay is a relay changeover. If you can get that as quick as possible, that's where you can really, really gain on your opposition, especially if their skills aren't as good as yours. And if you do it really well and if you do it fast, you never actually see the person in the water touch the wall because you're already in the air and you just have like a toe or a foot on the block when their hand has hit the wall. And so we're standing there and Emma's swimming in and I look at her and I know her stroke and I'm just like, all right, let's do this. And I take a big breath and I back myself and I go. And as I hit the water, I think I've either nailed that or we're disqualified. I was calm and cool and collected and just executed my perfect race plan. I touched the wall and saw that we had won by 0.12 of a second. The Americans' changeover time was 0.38 of a second. My changeover was 0.04. There was 4 100ths of time between Emma touching the wall and the time that there was my feet on the block at the same time. So there was so many parts of that I felt like I had to sit into my body. I had to trust that I had honed this skill to within a fraction of a second, because 4 100ths is less than the blink of a human eye.
From Ranieri & Co and Headline Productions, this is The Long Haul, and I'm Emma Murray. I worked with Cate as a performance coach in the lead up to the Tokyo Olympics. I saw firsthand the relentless focus and training driven by her desire to be the best. She is innately competitive. As an adoring nation, we've watched her reach the pinnacle of her sport. But performing at this level for over a decade also has a physical toll. In the coming weeks, we'll be releasing a bonus episode. It's one of my favourite interviews in this podcast series, a more in-depth conversation with Cate Campbell. So we sit on our couch and we watch and we're like, oh, 2 laps at the swimming pool. Like, you know, anyone can do that. What does your body feel like when you are in that second lap of a 100-metre sprint?
It really frustrates me when people say, oh, the last 10 metres of the race, it separates the mentally strong from the mentally weak. And that is just complete rubbish.
Yeah.
Because everyone who's in the pool is so mentally strong, and sometimes your body just shuts down. So we push ourselves, and so when we're in sort of the last 50 or that last 25, our bodies are being flooded with lactic acid. And acid, it burns your muscles, right? So your whole body is on fire, and it gets in and it actually damages your muscle. And we are pushing ourselves to levels where we want as much of that as we possibly can, because it's a byproduct of speed. So the faster you go, the more you get. For layman's terms, it's when you get up and you run really fast and you feel that real burning in your lungs, keep going and imagine that dialed up to 100, because we've trained ourselves to be able to open those floodgates and flood our body with the lactic acid.
And there's an Olympic gold medal on the line. Is it possible to push through that? Or there is just a physical limit that your body literally stops at?
It's a little bit of both. So you can physically just hit a wall. Your muscles are just not able to contract and expand at the rate that you need them to keep going. You can overrule it to a point, and if you reach the wall before that actual physical shutdown point, then that's a really good day. And if you don't, then it's a really long way. 10 meters can turn into a really long way.
Do you remember a race where it was like your body just felt like it let you down?
There are lots, but there are lots. One that really stands out, and that was at the Rio Olympic Games in the women's 100-meter freestyle. And our bodies are so sensitive that any small adjustments, any minute adjustments, can have a real impact on that second 50. So I have a stroke rate that I swim out as. It's 46 stroke rates, and I swim out in 32 strokes. And if I'm off by one stroke, if I'm one stroke higher, I've burned a little bit too much of that glycogen, those fast twitch fibers, and I've injected more lactic acid into my body than I should have done by the time we reached 50 meters. And I can just remember turning in that race and putting my feet on the wall, and it was like this wash of lactic acid rushed up my body, and I just thought, I know that it is going to be a really, really long way home.
And you were favourite in that race.
I was favourite in that race. I was the world record holder. I had broken the Olympic record going in the heats, and then in the semi-finals, I think I was ranked number 1 going in. And in that race, I ended up coming 6th. And that has become a really integral part of my story and part of my journey, and something that I never want to shy away from talking about, because I think that if I'm willing to talk about all the successes, I should be able to talk about the other things as well.
Well, yeah, but, you talk about it to the public in terms of I didn't live up to expectations and I let people down. But what we don't hear is my stroke rate was wrong.
By a really small margin, right? And those are the parameters that I work within. Those are my areas of error.
Okay, so let's look at an Olympic year. And you've just explained what's required of your body on race day. But what does it take? What's your training routine to get to do 2 laps the fastest you can?
I know. The training to competition ratio is so far out of whack for swimming. So a usual training week looks like 9 swim sessions, 3 gym, 2 spin bike sessions, and 2 Pilates sessions. So it all up adds to be about maybe 30 to 35 hours of exercise. And then on top of that, physio and massage are really important. And, taking really good care of your body. Sometimes it's 2 physios, particularly as you get older like me. So, and length of training, of my swim sessions, I'm not a distance swimmer, so fortunately I'm not in some of the really high kilometers, but I would still do between 4 and 5 Ks per session. Some of the distance guys do, 7, 8K sessions. And a few of them go through, they call them 100K weeks. So that's 10 sessions of 10K a session, which is nuts.
Yeah, that's insane.
Insane.
It's not just a sport anymore for us, it's our livelihoods, right? So it's our job. We're a professional athlete and a player, and this is what comes with the territory. If you want to be successful and if you want to have longevity in your career, you need to be able to do the right things and look after your body, because if you're not good, if you can't maintain that level, well, there's someone else who will maintain that level, and then the game is probably finished with you.
Wade Graham started playing rugby when he was 6 years old. He played his first competitive senior game at the age of 17. Now, at 31, he's the captain of the Cronulla Sharks. NRL is the sport of warriors and titans. And as far as team sports go, you don't get much more physical. Every game is a battlefield. I talked to Wade on a virtual call, but when you meet an NRL player in person, their size can be confronting. Wade isn't unusually big for the game, but you can see the sheer muscle mass he's built to withstand the repetitive blows of tackle upon tackle. But even the strongest bodies get worn down over time. So you're recovering from a surgery at the moment. Take us through that surgery, and have you got a list of surgeries like many athletes?
I do. I actually, in preparation, I wrote it down, so you can go through it after if you like. But
take us through it. Take us through it.
So I had shoulder surgery where I broke my collarbone through my AC, so they need to open me up and repair that. I had a stress fracture in my navicular in my foot. Navicular is not a great bone you want to hear as an athlete, because not a lot of blood flow goes to that area. So I've had a plate put into my cheekbone where I've broken my cheekbone in the game. I've had my fingers actually fixed. It used to go out sideways, and then they put a pin through it.
At this point, Wade lifts his pinky finger and it looks like it's been slammed in a car door.
Oh, that is awful. Oh.
Probably when I finish, I'll have the option to have the two bones fused. I have to take the knuckle out and I can fuse it, or I can leave it as is. I've ruptured my ACL, so I've had a full knee reconstruction. And at the moment, I've just had a ruptured syndesmosis, so they put a tight rope through my ankle, which is a week ago today. So that's my surgery history, so 7 or 8 surgeries there.
Do you see many players around you who reach a point where even if they wanted to go on, even if mentally they still love the game and it's providing for their family, but their physical body, that machine, is just broken and can't do it?
Over my course of my career, I've played against a lot of really hard competitors and great players, and unfortunately, injuries have just taken their toll, and their body just won't go the way it used to, and it just can't perform at the level that it needs to compete in the NRL, and it is very sad. And a lot of the time, it's about the training, putting the work in away from the games to actually get yourself to a level where you can go out there and play, and play consistently over the season. That's the biggest factor. It goes all year long, and you've got to be able to pick yourself up and dust yourself off again. And a lot of guys are limited, knee cartilage missing, ankle cartilage missing, shoulders, elbows, where the actual functionality over time and the chronic injury over time just becomes too much. They can't complete the training to get to the level that they need to be at. But you see some of the guys who played, in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s, surgeries that weren't as effective as today, or even, no surgeries. They just got on with it, and their bodies are, you can see it hurts them walking up and down stairs, and it's just, it's the toll that the game takes on you. We're very lucky, right? We get to live our dream, and we're compensated for that in a sense, but there is a price to pay, and the price to pay is your body, is the way you live your life. And, you're a long time retired. If if you play until you're 32, 33, 34, 35, you're really lucky in most sports.
Because it's just not the game that is hard on your body. Like, you have to train the way you play. There's collisions and injuries and impact at training as well.
Most players would probably get their soft tissue injuries at training, just because the level you need to train at needs to be able to replicate the game. You need to prepare yourself for what the intensity of the game is. You're probably never going to reach that ultimate level of competition and intensity that a game brings about, but you need to try and get your training to match that as close as you can. And if you ask a lot of athletes, the game is actually, you could play forever if you could just not have to train so hard to get prepared for that. Like, game day is the fun part. You get to go out there and try and win, and the fans are there, your family's in the crowd. It's just it takes a toll when you're preparing for that.
You make a really good point. It's something that you have to deliberately learn and deliberately put focus on. You don't just get born into this body that can withstand this pressure and perform at the level that you're asking it to perform. Can you take us through what does it involve to get your body ready for such a high impact sport?
The recovery process never stops. It's always trying to fix what you've taken out of your body, trying to replace what you've taken out, because you need to repeat and repeat and repeat. And that's how, it goes game after game, year after year. That rest, recover, train hard, break the body a bit, and then recover and then train harder to get you in a state where your body and your mind are able to, last the marathon that is the NRL season.
And when you say it's constant, I'm presuming it's not just something that you walk into the club and turn it on and turn it off when you walk out of the club, that it's all consuming in terms of all day, every day, the sleep you get, what you're doing on your weekends, on your downtime, how you're looking after your body.
See, I find during the season much easier to handle because everything's geared towards the game. So it's easy to work backwards from the game. Your thought process around training all week, your food, your water intake, you're always 24, 48 hours thinking ahead on what's coming. All right, so if it's Wednesday night, so I've got a game on Friday night. So what I'm eating Wednesday night is gearing me up for Thursday's training, and then what I'm putting in my body for Thursday is gearing me up for the game Friday. And then you sort of have that, I suppose for me, the 20-minute, 30-minute period after a game where you're in the sheds and you're sort of relaxed and the game's finished. You can finally take a minute where you're not worried about the next week. But it doesn't take long. The next day you're in for recovery and you're in for the review of the game before. And like I said, you start that cycle again. You're geared up about recovering from the last game, getting ready to train so you can prepare for the next game.
Talking to Wade, it feels like his list of injuries is a rite of passage. He says putting up with pain and playing hurt is different to playing injured. It's just something that everyone gets on with. In high-impact sports like NRL and AFL, sustaining injuries and managing pain is simply a reality. In non-contact sports like swimming, it's easy to think that injuries play a far lesser role. But injury and pain are part of all elite sports.
I have been injured on and off pretty much throughout my entire career. I first sustained a hip injury when I was 12 years old. So I used to be a breaststroker, and I tore the cartilage in my hip when I was 12. And so then I couldn't do breaststroke kick anymore. So then that's how I became a freestyler. So my career was actually shaped by injury. And then on and off throughout my career, I have been plagued by injury. Probably the one that's been the most long-lasting and most impactful is a chronic neck injury. And that was sustained through an initial whiplash trauma that happened when I was 14. And had kind of got progressively worse to the point where before the 2016 Rio Olympics, I was in 6 out of 10 pain all day, every day. It would get worse when I was in the pool. I had headaches all the time. I was waking up at night because it was sore and uncomfortable. I think I had sort of 4 cortisone injections into it in the lead into the games just to get me there. And then after the games were finished and I was at a little bit of a crossroads in my life and trying to decide do I want to continue to swim on, or do I think I'm done? A really key factor was the amount of pain that I was in when I was training. And it takes, there's obviously the physical toll, but there's a real mental toll as well to be in that level of pain all the time. Particularly for me, it was in my head and neck area. And so we went in and we tried a whole heap of different things. We went in and did what they burnt off some of the nerves to the facet joint, and that didn't work. And I just said, guys, like, if we don't find a way to manage this, I'm done. Like, I can't keep doing this. And I managed to work with an incredible physio, and we found some world leading experts working at the University of Queensland. And turns out that neck strength is really important. So I have the most ridiculous looking neck exercises to do.
Tell me about your relationship with your body as you were growing in swimming, and your body's changing, and you're changing. At what point did you go from this changing young girl into this is my machine and it's my greatest tool?
It's really interesting because athletes have a really close relationship with their body. And it's quite strange how in tune we are to everything. It's almost like you're just constantly scanning it in case something is going wrong. There's a bit of a mental toll that goes along with that. Am I eating enough? Am I feeling like I'm running out of energy? If you're running out of energy, your body starts metabolizing the muscles, and you don't want that. So you're constantly checking in. And I think that that's okay if it's from a performance mindset, but when that begins to bleed into other areas of your life, and when it starts when you're really young, that's really hard. And I think that I was really lucky when I was younger that I had a coach who wasn't super intense and super focused. You can have a real emphasis on managing and charting everything to do with your body, so you can plot the changes on a graph, and you can do things they call them DEXA scans, where you can go in and you can get scanned to see what your muscle mass is compared to your fat percentage, and all of these things. And I think he recognized quite early on that I'm quite an obsessive person, so that there was never like lots of weighing in, lots of skin folds, which is a really challenging time, particularly for women when we're going through puberty, because our bodies change a lot. And unlike men or boys where they lean down and bulk up, we fill out. And we go from having these pre-pubescent, almost androgynous figures to transitioning into a figure which is largely outside of your control. I'm lucky that boobs were never in my genes. Otherwise, we might not be sitting here having this conversation. So being really, really mindful of that throughout your teenage transition years is something that takes a lot of emotional intelligence from a coach. And I was really, really lucky in that my coach had that. I think that I witnessed things that weren't, or coaches who weren't as emotionally intelligent. And when I had an experience on the senior team, I noticed that there was maybe a focus on appearance from an aesthetic point of view, is in skinny swimmers make better swimmers, as opposed to a performance point of view. Like, what state do you need to be in to perform at your best?
We had a fat club at the AIS.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like you had your skin folds done and well, you're in the fat club.
Yeah.
And the competition between who's in the fat club, not in the fat club, who's getting out of the fat club.
Yeah.
And it was called the fat club.
Yeah. I think that it is beginning to change. When I was going through this, it's like, 15 years ago now. And I think that we are beginning to be a lot more mindful about the impacts that discussions around body image can have on young people in general. Because while I'm talking about it from a female point of view, this goes on for men and women. the boys and the girls are weighed in and have skin folds and things like that. It's just for guys, it's a lot easier to be very, very lean, right? And I think that it can so easily get turned into a competition, right? Who can have the lowest skin folds? And you're already amongst competitive people. Like, it doesn't even have to necessarily come from the coach, but we'll turn it into a competition.
After the break, we'll find out how, as a young boy, Wade came to the decision to put his body on the line for the sport he loved.
At some point in those, formative years, 11s, 12s, 13s, you really start to work out whether rugby league is the game for you, because you need to enjoy the physical side of it. You need to not be worried about going out there and get, being physical, because that's the game. So,
was that always in you, that willingness to put your body on the line and, enjoy the physical side of the sport?
It's funny that you ask that and say that, saying your body on the line, because I grew up with three sisters. My mum and dad and my nan was at home. Three sisters and me. So it was we were surrounded by the women. The women held all the power in the house, but it was me and dad. And footy was, dad loved me playing footy and loved to watch me play footy. But then around those ages, you change your mind. You like things one week, you don't like things the other. I remember having a conversation with him when I was maybe 12 or 13 about the game, and he said, because it was getting physical. He said, mate, if you don't want to play, you don't have to play. If it's enough for you, you don't have to play anymore. Like, we don't worry. You just need to be happy and enjoy what you're doing. And I said, no, I do want to play. And he goes, okay, well, if you want to play, you need to be prepared to go out there and put your body on the line and play hard, play fair, but play hard, because that's the nature of the game.
Yeah, it is. So you obviously decided that that's what you were going to do. So when did you decide that this body, we talk about our body as a machine, when did you decide to really fuel it, get it big, do the right things by it?
It came quite early to me. I was fortunate enough to be involved with some guys who played in the NRL as a kid. So I was lucky to be surrounded by some great coaches that they teach you, about fueling your body and being introduced to weights and that sort of professional training standard. And it starts quite young, and then I suppose in the pursuit of a dream, you're very disciplined and you do what you're told and you follow the instructions of the trainers and the coaches. And, certainly when I was younger, I was a sponge with that, because I definitely knew the path I wanted to take. And like I said, being around guys who'd taken that path before me certainly gave a sense that it was achievable if you did the right thing and put the work in.
So to get the site, you're big. Most rugby league players are big. What do you need to eat to keep that size, to fuel that body?
I have the body type where it's actually hard for me to gain weight. Like, I need to work in the gym to gain weight. And when I say gain weight, I mean gain good muscle weight. If I was to, in the off season, to go on holidays, I would obviously lose a lot of muscle. I'd turn softer around the chest and the arm because I haven't been working out in the gym, and all that good muscle would turn to not so great body shape. And to get back in the gym, I'm the type of person that needs to eat good food and really work hard in the gym to make my body shape gain the good weight that you necessarily mean. When other guys are built different, they find it really easy to put on weight and it's harder to lose. I feel like I'm a lucky one, really, because I just need to eat really good food, your high proteins and low carbs, while I'm trying to build my muscles, to just get in the gym and just put the work in. That's where I get the benefit. It's not about diet, or it's obviously a good diet, but it's not about necessarily taking things away. It's about just working hard at training.
You've mentioned the word recovery a few times. How important is recovery in keeping your body in a state where it can actually take this physical load and physical hammering week after week after week?
It's a lot of aspects, but food is certainly a massive part of recovery. Hydration is a massive part of recovery. Sleep is a massive part of recovery. You can swim and massage and the whatnot, just like the icing on the cake. But without those three aspects, your body either can't keep up, it can't maintain the training, and it certainly can't maintain the level of performance. Without enough sleep, again, your body and your mind can't handle the duress of consistently training at a high level and the pressures that come with the game. But it's just a constant battle, just trying to get that perfectly right, just to squeeze the most out of your performance.
It's so interesting that recovery is now forming such a big part, because it's ironically an area of training that I'm really resistant to. My coach was kind of, and has always been on the forefront of this. This was a concept that he adopted right when I was really young. And we have done a lot of recovery. We work intensely hard, and then we allow ourselves to recover so that we can reach those levels of intensity again. And this means that we typically do less kilometers than a lot of other people. And at the beginning, I was really, really proud of this. But then we get stuck in the cycle of looking at other people, and there was this real sense of like, more is more. And if you're not doing more, then like there's something wrong with you, and you could be so much better if you just did more. And so I kind of, for a while, got really stressed about the fact that we were recovering, even though my results were excellent. I was best in the world. And so then I would push myself to do more, or I'd do like extra things and not sit in that recovery. And then your performance suffers. And even now, when I know that recovery is the best thing for me, I'll feel really uncomfortable resting and doing nothing. But it's a really, really big, important part of our training. And it's a really important part of performance, whether or not you're in the pool. Allowing yourself to recover allows yourself to replenish the energy so that you can go and do something really extraordinary.
Talk to us about food, because, that is your petrol, and you need a lot of it, but it must just be such a big part of your performance.
It is, and it's an area that I've identified that I need to be really, really strict about when I'm in that competition mode, because one of the physical signs of nerves when they play up and stress for me is loss of appetite. So my desire to eat just completely disappears, and I don't like the taste of anything. Food that would usually bring me joy and I would love, and I'd happily wolf down. I just suddenly, the look of it, the smell of it, it just completely turns my stomach. So I have to be really, I take really high calorie supplements during the games. And so I have to consciously and relentlessly fuel myself. And it's something that's really, really deliberate. When I'm outside of competition, I just have to be really careful that I eat every 3 hours, because if I don't eat every 3 hours, my energy levels just come crashing down and I turn into this monster because I get so hangry and I start to lose the ability to form coherent sentences, and I get super cranky and I can't make decisions. So I always have snacks on hand so that I can like quickly fuel up. And it's funny because people say, you would have to really watch what you eat. But when you're doing that amount of exercise, you can consume a lot of calories, right? It's now that I'm on a break that I'm actually having to really be a lot more mindful about what I'm putting in my body, because I can see the changes it makes really quickly.
Yeah, welcome to our world.
I know. I can't have ice cream for dessert.
Have you, now that you are on a break, do you notice that perhaps you have a different relationship with food to people who haven't been elite swimmers?
I have a different relationship with food, and I have a different relationship with my body. I like it to work really well. and I like it to be performing at its best, even if that's for no other reason than it just makes me feel good. And so I'm less likely to put really bad things in it. And, while I definitely enjoy a couple of nights out and having a really good time, it is not something that I enjoy on a regular basis. I don't drink a lot of alcohol because I notice immediately that it affects my sleep, even if it's only like 1 or 2 glasses. Like throughout the week, I just don't have it.
So it's like you can't turn off that tuning system that you've developed all over these years. It's constantly checking in, even though now you're not swimming.
Yeah. And I constantly want it to be in its like optimal state, right? Because that's where I'm used to getting it.
Did you have that mindset, during training periods or during competition periods of the reward? I work hard and I reward, or it was just like, I've got to measure everything?
If I allowed myself like a day where I ate badly, then I would be very, very, very good for the next couple of days. To be honest, and now that I'm on the outside and I'm not doing the amount of exercise, I wish that I'd just eaten a bit more crap. I honestly do. I just wish that I'd loaded up on the calories because I could have a burger, for goodness sake.
But do you get bogged down because, I'm doing X amount of kilometres a week, they are, like every athlete is doing a very similar training load. You have to find your edge somewhere, don't you, when you're an Olympic athlete? Well, any athlete, but particularly those Olympic athletes. Are you pedantic because you're looking for that edge?
I reckon I was pedantic because it made me feel superior to other people. It was more like, I want to feel like I am doing more than you.
So it's like, this burger gives me the same calories as, a ton of blueberries and yogurt.
Yeah.
But if I have not had the burger, I can stand up behind the blocks and look at my opposition and think, I've got you.
It's not even looking at the opposition to say, I've got you. It's just, look how much self-control I have. You ate that burger. Shame on you. I ate the blueberries. Bully for me. And
have you ever said that out loud? Are you now thinking, what was I thinking?
I go in and out of phases of self-reflection and understanding of myself, and then I willfully blind myself to all of it so I can feel superior again, because everyone likes that feeling.
Coming up, are the highs of elite sport worth the physical cost? Talking to Wade and Cate, I realised their ability to withstand the physical demands of their sports seems to be closely aligned to their sense of identity as athletes and humans. For Cate, her identity is connected to her incredible drive to be the fastest swimmer on the planet. Alongside that drive, there's an intimate connection to the machine that has made her a champion. That execution of that perfect race, does it make every chart, blueberry, good sleep, extra recovery session, does it make it worth it?
Don't get me wrong, the win, it's one of those moments that I can sit back and lean into and take nourishment from. But to be honest, the parts of the process I love as well. And does it make it worth it? It definitely helps, but I never resented having the blueberries instead of having the burger.
For Wade, his identity is based on the toughness and resilience required to survive over a decade in the brutal physical reality of the NRL.
It's a long year. There's 26 rounds, and the continual grind of, the game, the rugby league game, the collisions, the bumps and bruises, the training, it does wear your body down. And, there is, as much as we love the game as juniors, and, obviously we're very lucky and privileged. The physical toll on your body, there's no way you leave the game, the same way you entered the game, for sure. There's, a very wise man once told me there's a tax to pay for playing the game. and upon leaving the game, certainly your body's going to have the effects and the tolls on you for the rest of your life.
The Long Haul is brought to you by Ranieri & Co. and Headline Productions. In our next episode, we look into the ethnic origins of the most played sport in Australia.
I grew up in an AFL environment. When I defected to start playing soccer as a kid, that was a major issue. That was my coming out experience. That was something you don't do.
This episode was produced by Simon Portis and Liz Keane. Editing was by Simon Portis. Theme music was by Kenneth Lample. Special thanks to Nick Randall, Robbie Ranieri, Cate Campbell, Wade Graham, and Joy Ratcliffe from the Rugby League Players Association. I'm Emma Murray.